Today we're going to be replacing the idler pulley for the AC compressor belt, which is located right down here. We picked the pulley up from our local Toyota parts store. It's a brand new OEM part, and this is what it looks like. To replace the pulley, we need to remove the lower skid plate above the steering shock. And it's going to be these bolts here, 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 and one more on the other side. And they're 12mm sockets. Alright, with the skid plate removed, you can see you have a lot more room down here, and we can actually see what we're working on. Right here is the crank pulley with the two drive belts that run the water pump and the alternator. This is the AC compressor belt. This is the tensioner pulley that we're going to be replacing, and this is the AC compressor here. To slacken this belt, we need to first loosen this nut on the front of the pulley, and then we're going to turn this in the left-hand direction to loosen it, and that's going to let the pulley travel upward towards the crank pulley and slacken the belt. Alright, so these two nuts, the one on the front of the pulley and the bolt on the bottom, those are both 14mm. You're going to break the nut free on the front of the pulley first. And then we're going to loosen this up. And as you loosen it up, just push it up towards the engine, and you'll see the slack. And actually what you can do is you can take this bolt all the way out, because we're going to have to do that to replace it. Alright, with that removed, all we have to do is take the nut off on the front of the pulley, and we can pull the pulley off. And as you can see, the nut is actually captured on the front washer for the pulley. So it's going to come off as one piece. And then you just pull the stud out of the back like this. And then just pick the pulley. There's a washer on the back. Pick the pulley and the washer up off the belt and slide it out like so. The new pulley pretty much goes back on the exact same way, just in reverse order. So we're going to disassemble it. I'm going to set the pulley up on the belt, being sure not to drop the washer out of the back of it. Kind of hold it up against the bracket like so, and slide the bolt through. And then you take your washer and your nut and put them up on the stud and start them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of run them down finger tight, just to kind of get rid of the wiggle in the pulley. And then I'll probably back it off, I don't know, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn. That way I can move that pulley up and down. And then before I put this bolt back in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with a wire brush and clean all the crud out of the threads on it. That way we've got really good adjustment up and down. All right, with the bolt all cleaned back up, we're going to slide it back up through the hole into the bolt. And we're just going to start it by hand here, making sure that it's not galling the threads or anything. It should turn nice and easy just like that. If you want to, you can apply some type of anti-seize lubricant to them, to the threads, but I'm not really too worried about it. It's an 80 series and it leaks oil, so it's kind of lubricated anyway. And we're just going to run this all the way back up. Now you'll notice as I tighten it up that the pulley is going to start dropping down to the belt. What I'm doing as I'm tightening it here is I'm just checking the deflection in the belt. Normally you want to check it where it's got the longest run, which is actually up on top. And I'll show you guys what I kind of do with that here in just a bit. Good rule of thumb though, typically that I use, is you should only be able to turn your V-belt about 1/4 of the way. You shouldn't be able to rotate it past that. Once you do that, you usually have enough tension on it. And once you've got that where you want it, all you got to do is tighten up the nut on the front of the pulley. You don't have to kill yourself tightening this nut up, just snug it up so it's tight. Because remember, if you have a belt squeal or you need to take the belt off when you're out on the trail, you want to be able to take this back off. You don't want to have to use a 3-foot breaker bar to do it. And again, like I said, you want to check the belt in the longest run, which is going to be between the AC compressor and the crank pulley. And all we're doing is twisting that belt again. You shouldn't get more than 1/4 turn out of the belt. If you don't get 1/4 turn and it barely moves, you're too tight. You need to loosen it back up. If it's right at 1/4 turn or just under 1/4 turn, even slightly over 1/4 turn, you're in the ballpark. So it's not an exact science. You're not going to burn a belt up unless it's way too loose or way too tight. And way too tight You're probably still not going to burn the belt up. More likely you're going to wear the bearings out in the front of the AC compressor or in that pulley. Alright, so all we have left is to put the skid plate back on, and I'll do that so you guys don't have to sit and watch. I did want to show you the old pulley though, and one thing I wanted to kind of point out or make note of was the noise that it makes. Pulley shouldn't sound like that. You shouldn't hear the actual ball bearings rotating in there. It should be nice and smooth. It doesn't matter if you spin it and it barely moves. You know, that's just telling you that there's grease in there, but you shouldn't have that noise, and you shouldn't be able to feel play in that bearing. And that was our problem from the get-go. The actual issue that we were having with the belt or the truck was we thought we had a belt squeak, and upon tightening the belts up or tensioning the belts and checking them out, that turned out not to be the problem. We ended up finding the noise coming from this, gave it a little shot of multi-lube, and the noise went away. So we knew that it was this bearing. It was just a matter of replacing it. So we hope you guys found this video helpful, and we'll try to shoot more of these in the future. Had a lot of people tell us that it was really helpful, and there's not a whole lot of information on these trucks. They're not that difficult to work on, but you just kind of have to know how to do it before you try to tackle it. So if you guys have any questions, drop us your questions in the comments down below, and we'll get back to you guys.